Ever feel like, you're searching for something, but you're not even sure what that thing is?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what's it all about?
Yeah.
Today, we're going deep on that feeling, diving into, excerpts from 1,000 Teachings by Adi Shankaracharya.
Oh, excellent choice.
You brought this text to the table.
I did.
And it grapples with a huge question. Who am I?
Yes.
It's a question that's echoed through centuries, right?
Right.
And Shankaracharya uses some, I think, seriously insightful methods to kind of get to the heart of it.
He really does. And what I think is so fascinating about how he approaches this question is that he doesn't just kind of throw out abstract concepts. 1,000 Teachings is structured as a dialogue between a teacher and a disciple.
Okay.
So it really makes us feel like we're part of this intimate conversation, learning alongside them.
Okay, I love that. So it's like we're kind of eavesdropping on a master class in self-discovery.
Exactly.
So we've got this disciple, right? Eager to understand the self. Where do they even begin? What's their initial understanding?
Well, so initially the disciple, much like probably many of us, kind of gets caught up in the usual traps, lineage, social status, all of those external markers that we often confuse as identity.
Right, yeah.
And they're clinging to the things that they think define them, They're trying to build a self out of their achievements and family ties.
Yeah, which, let's be real, we're all guilty of sometimes, right? Building our resume.
All the time.
Crafting that perfect online persona.
Yes.
It's easy to get caught up in those externals.
Absolutely.
So how does the teacher in the text start to kind of dismantle this misconception?
So he starts really gently, which I appreciate.
Right.
He starts by emphasizing that the true self is distinct from these fleeting attributes. And to really kind of hit this point home, he uses a really powerful analogy. A rope mistaken for a snake.
Okay, let's unpack this whole rope and snake situation. I've heard this one before, but I feel like we can always go a little deeper with it. So take it away. What's going on with this rope and this snake?
Okay, so imagine you're walking down a dimly lit path. It's dusk.
Spooky.
Right. A little spooky, right? And you see a rope lying there.
Yeah.
But because of the poor lighting and maybe, your own anxieties, you mistake it for a snake.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
And you might even feel that jolt of fear, that rush of adrenaline.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be running for the hills, heart pounding.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
But in reality, there's no snake. It's just a rope.
Yeah.
The fear, the panic, all of that stemmed from a misperception.
Right.
From a lack of clarity about what was really there.
Okay, so how does Shankaracharya connect this back to our understanding of the self?
Yes.
What's the rope we're mistaking in our own lives?
That is the question, isn't it?
It is.
That's the heart of it. Shankaracharya is saying that just like we mistake the rope for a snake, we often mistake our temporary identities and experiences for our true self.
Okay.
We get caught up in the illusion of duality,
Yeah.
the me versus the not me, when in reality there's only oneness. We latch on to things like our jobs, relationships, even our thoughts and emotions, thinking they define us.
Right. It's like we're constantly grasping at things outside ourselves for this solid sense of self.
Yes.
When all along, that true self might be something entirely different, something deeper, more fundamental.
Exactly. And because those external things are constantly changing, jobs end, relationships evolve, our emotions are constantly in flux. We're left feeling insecure.
Right.
Like we don't have a solid ground to stand on.
Okay. Yeah, that resonates. So if we're not our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences, then who are we?
Right.
How do we even begin to grasp this unchanging self that Shankaracharya is pointing to?
Right.
It's kind of a terrifying question when you really think about it.
It is. It is a terrifying question. And Shankaracharya, he doesn't shy away from that.
Right.
He doesn't try to sugarcoat it or anything. He just dives right into it.
Okay.
And this is where he introduces this concept of the what he calls the witness within. And he describes the self as this unchanging observer of all the fluctuations of the mind, all the thoughts, emotions, sensations that come and go.
So it's like we're kind of like watching a movie of our lives.
Yes.
But we're not the characters.
Right.
We're not the plot.
Yes.
We're just the audience.
You've got it. That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And just like the audience in a movie theater, right? They remain unaffected by all the drama unfolding on the screen.
Right.
The self, according to Shankaracharya, remains untouched by the constant, chatter of the mind.
Okay, I like that. But if we're not the thoughts themselves, then what does it even mean to observe them? Like this whole witness idea, it's still a little abstract for me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a concept that you feel more than you can really put into words,
Right.
But think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how two people can have the exact same experience but react in completely different ways?
Oh, totally. Yeah, like getting stuck in traffic.
Yes, perfect example.
Some people, like, completely lose their minds.
Road rage.
Yeah, road rage.
Yeah.
And others are just, like, totally chill, vibing to music.
Exactly. That difference in reaction, that's the witness at work.
Okay.
That's that part of us that's able to observe our thoughts and emotions without getting totally swept away by them. It's the calm in the center of the storm.
Okay, that clicks a little bit more for me. So it's like having some space between what's happening and how we react to it.
Yes.
And Shankaracharya is saying that cultivating that space, connecting with that witness within, is the key to finding, like, lasting peace.
You got it. And that's a pretty radical idea even today,
Right.
because we're so used to identifying with every single thought and feeling that comes up.
Right.
But Shankaracharya is suggesting that we actually have a choice. We can get totally hooked by those thoughts and emotions,
Right.
or we can choose to just simply observe them, without judgment.
Yeah. This is kind of reminding me a little bit about mindfulness practices.
Ah.
That idea of, like, noticing your thoughts without getting carried away by them. Is there a connection there?
There are definitely some parallels there.
Okay.
And it's interesting that you bring that up because Shankaracharya was a big proponent of meditation as a tool for self-discovery.
Speaking of tools, I really like how in our source material, it doesn't just lay out Shankaracharya's philosophy in a vacuum.
Right.
It actually goes into detail about his debates with all these other schools of thought.
Yes.
It's like, this guy, he thrives on intellectual sparring.
He does.
I'm getting ancient philosophy rap battle vibe.
Oh, don't let me stop you from writing that, right?
Okay. But yeah, so Shankaracharya, he was like a master debater.
Oh, yeah.
And he did not shy away from engaging with these other philosophical traditions of his time.
That's right. And that's what's so great about him.
Yeah. So in the source material, there's this whole section where he goes head-to-head with the Samkhya philosophers.
Yes. The Samkhya philosopher.
Who believed in this fundamental duality between matter and consciousness.
Right.
Which seems like a pretty fundamental divide.
It is.
So how did he even begin to, like, bridge that?
So Shankaracharya argued that this duality, this fundamental difference between matter and consciousness, that the Samkhya philosophers clung to so tightly, he was like, it's an illusion.
Okay.
It's just not real. He said, look, if matter and consciousness were truly separate, then how could consciousness ever experience or perceive matter? Where would they meet?
Right.
It's a good point.
It is.
There must be some underlying unity
Right.
that connects everything.
Okay, that makes you think.
Right.
Because it's so easy to just see the world as this, like, collection of separate things.
Yes.
Here's me, there's my coffee cup, there's that annoying fly.
Right, totally.
But this idea of an underlying unity, pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah. What other schools of thought did he challenge?
Let's see. He also debated the Vaisheshika philosophers.
Okay, the Vaisheshikas.
Who believe that the individual soul possesses qualities like knowledge, pleasure, pain.
Okay, so they believed our essence is made up of these different qualities.
Right, that was their argument.
Okay.
But Shankaracharya, he comes back swinging, and he's like, well, hold on a second. If these qualities truly belong to this unchanging self, then liberation, which, many of these schools are looking for, that involves transcending these very qualities, that would be impossible. If my soul is joy, then how can I ever experience a state beyond joy?
That's a good point.
Right? It kind of breaks down.
It does.
So he's basically like drawing a line in the sand, saying that the true self, the one that we're trying to connect with, is beyond these kind of fleeting, ever-changing qualities, right?
Exactly. He's saying, those, my friend, those are just more ropes that you're mistaking for snakes.
Right. We're just seeing snakes everywhere.
Everywhere.
Projecting snakes onto everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is all so fascinating, but I have a feeling we've only just like dipped our toes into the ocean and 1,000 teachings, right?
Just getting started.
Yeah. There's a lot more to unpack here, especially, I think, with this phrase that keeps popping up, tat tivamasi, thou art that.
Yes.
It's like the ultimate mic drop of ancient wisdom.
It is.
But I'll be honest, I'm not sure I fully grasp its significance yet.
Well, get ready to have your mind blown.
Okay.
Because thou art that is essentially the cornerstone of Shankaracharya's entire philosophy.
Okay.
It is a lightning bolt of insight that shatters the illusion of separation between the individual self and the universal self.
Okay. I'm ready for that lightning bolt. Break it down for me.
Essentially, what it's declaring is this. You, in your deepest essence,
Okay.
you are not separate from
No.
the ultimate reality,
Okay.
from Brahman. You are That it is a radical statement of non-duality.
So it's not just saying like, hey, we're all connected, like kumbaya. It's saying we are literally the same thing.
The same.
Like, I'm not just connected to you, like I am you.
Exactly. Yes. I know. It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, at the surface level, we see differences. You have your body, your thoughts, your experience. I have mine. But Shankaracharya is pointing to a deeper reality beyond these more superficial distinctions.
So it's kind of like if you're looking at like waves on the ocean.
Yes.
Each wave is unique,
Yeah.
has its own like shape and form,
Yes.
but ultimately they're all just part of that same ocean.
That's beautiful. I love that analogy. And just like the ocean is vast and deep, so too is this universal self that Shankaracharya is pointing to.
So how do we bridge that gap? Like, how do we go from experiencing ourselves as these like separate individuals to realizing this profound oneness? Does Shankaracharya offer any advice on how to do that?
He does. He does. Shankaracharya argues that it's through this process of self-inquiry,
Okay.
of questioning all of our assumptions about who we are.
Okay.
He challenges us to look beyond the temporary changing aspects of our experience and discover that unchanging witness within.
Right. That audience member that's always present, even amidst the chaos of our thoughts and emotions.
Exactly. And he says, as we begin to identify less with these sort of fleeting aspects of ourselves,
Right.
we naturally start to experience a greater sense of connection with everything around us.
Okay.
We realize that the same consciousness that animates us also animates the entire universe.
Wow. That's a powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
No wonder this phrase is considered so profound.
It is profound.
But I have to ask, if the self is already perfect and eternally free, as Shankaracharya suggests, then what's the point of anything? Why bother striving for anything in life? What happens to free will? What happens to our own individual journeys if we're all already part of this one big perfect thing? That's the big question, isn't it? If we're already perfect, already whole, then what's the point of, well, anything at all?
It's a very valid question. A lot of people struggle with this.
Right. It's like if you're handed the championship trophy before the game even starts,
Right.
it kind of takes the fun out of playing, doesn't it?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But actually, Shankaracharya addresses this very question head on in the text. He's not advocating for, like, passivity or indifference. He's not saying, like, we should just sit around and do nothing. He's simply saying that realizing our true nature, it doesn't negate the need for action, but it transforms our relationship to it.
So it's not about checking OUT of life. It's more about shifting our understanding of who's doing the checking, right?
Yes, you got it. We still act, we still make choices, but it all flows from a very different place.
Oh.
We're not acting out of like a sense of lack, you know,
Right.
or this desperate need to achieve something in order to feel whole, but from a place of wholeness and freedom. It's like the game is still happening, but we're no longer so attached to winning or losing.
Right.
We're just playing for the pure joy of it.
Okay, I really like that. It makes this whole Tattvamasasi thing feel less like a finish line
Right.
and more like, I don't know, leveling up to a whole new way of experiencing the game.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, cool. So that makes sense.
And this brings us to another key point in the text, which is Shankaracharya's discussion of the nature of action and how it relates to the self. So he emphasizes that actions, they belong to the realm of the ego, you know, the realm of the doer,
Right.
but they don't actually touch the unchanging self.
Okay, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So
Yeah.
it's like the actions themselves are still happening.
Yes.
You know, we're still living our lives, making choices, doing things, but the self, that witness within, is somehow beyond all of that.
You got it. You're getting it.
Okay. Is there a way to visualize this? It's like a cloud passing in front of the sun, right? The sun's still there, shining bright, even if we can't see it for a moment.
That is a beautiful analogy. You're really getting this. And it really gets at the heart of what Shankaracharya is trying to convey,
Okay.
which is that our essence, our true self, it's untouched by all the ups and downs of life, even as we experience them fully. To kind of illustrate this even further,
Okay.
he uses this metaphor of light and a lamp.
Okay, I love a good metaphor. Tell me about this light and lamp. What's happening there?
Okay, so imagine a lamp, right? It needs oil and a wick to produce light.
Right.
The mind is like that lamp.
Okay.
And the self, that consciousness, is like the light itself. Just like the light isn't affected by the lamp or the oil or the wick, the self remains pure and luminous regardless of what condition the mind is in.
So even if our minds are like racing a mile a minute,
Totally.
filled with like worry, or doubt, that underlying awareness is still there, just shining brightly beneath the surface.
Shining brightly. Yes. It's a reassuring thought, isn't it?
It is. It's very calming.
Right. No matter how chaotic things get,
Yeah.
there's this part of us that remains untouched, pure potential. And connecting with that part of ourselves, that's the whole point. That is the point of all of Shankaracharya's teachings.
Okay, it's like he's handing us this, like, compass
Yes.
and a map, and he's saying, hey, you might feel lost sometimes, but you always have this inner guide to kind of lead you back to yourself.
I love that. And speaking of maps, Shankaracharya actually gives us a pretty detailed one in 1,000 teachings for navigating those times when we do feel lost in illusion.
Okay.
And he does that by distinguishing between 3 different levels of reality.
Right.
And he says, understanding these different levels is crucial to really grasping, not just intellectually, but on an embodied level, his message.
Okay, this is fascinating. I'm ready to dive into these levels of reality. Give me the lowdown. What's level 1?
Okay, so level 1, Vyavaharika Satya, which translates to empirical reality.
Yep.
This is like the everyday world that we experience through our senses,
Okay.
the world of like traffic jams and coffee spills. This is the world where we are mistaking ropes for snakes left and right.
Right. This is the world of appearances.
Yes.
The world we perceive with our, like, very limited sense.
Exactly, limited
Yeah.
senses.
Okay, got it. What's level 2?
Level 2 is Pratibhasika Satya, meaning apparent reality.
Okay.
So this level's a bit trickier.
Yeah.
It's closer to the truth, but it's still not the whole picture. It's like realizing that, okay, the rope isn't actually a snake,
Okay.
but not quite grasping that our perception is what created that snake in the first place.
Okay, so we're kind of peeling back a layer of the illusion,
Yes,
but there's still more to go.
more to go. And that brings us to level 3.
Okay, hit me with level 3. What's ultimate reality?
This, my friend, is the big one. This is Paramarthika Satya, or absolute reality.
Oh,
This is the level of Tat Tivamasiya. This is the realization of oneness with the self. It's seeing beyond the rope and the snake, beyond all duality, to the underlying unity that connects every single thing.
okay, so Shankaracharya is saying these levels, it's not like they're separate boxes, right?
Right.
It's more like they're just different ways of seeing the same ultimate reality.
Exactly. And he invites us, through self-inquiry, meditation, and ethical living, to shift our perspective from that very limited view of empirical reality to the expansive truth of absolute reality.
Wow. Okay. This is, like, blowing my mind a little.
It's a lot.
It really is. It's like I've been wearing these, like, reality distorting glasses my whole life.
Yes.
And Shankaracharya just, like, very gently handing me a new prescription.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, if this absolute reality is already within us, always there, then, like, what's stopping us from experiencing it all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we get so caught up in those first 2 levels of reality, the ones filled with all the misperceptions and illusions?
That, my friend, is the work of Maya.
Maya, I knew it. That word, it gets thrown around a lot in, like, spiritual circles.
It does.
What does it actually mean, like, in this context?
So Maya is often translated as illusion, but it's more than just that. It's this power that makes the infinite appear finite, the unchanging appear as if it's changing, the one appear as many.
Yeah.
It's like this, I don't know, cosmic veil that kind of obscures our true nature, and it allows us to experience the drama of duality, of separation.
Okay, so it's not that the world is inherently, like, bad or unreal or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just that Maya is, like, I don't know, throwing a wrench in the works, making us kind of, like, forget who we really are at our core.
Exactly. And Shankaracharya, I appreciate that he doesn't present Maya as something to be feared
Right.
or condemned, but rather as kind of like a necessary condition for this human experience of self-discovery.
Right, because, like, without Maya, without the illusion of separation, there wouldn't be this journey
Exactly.
towards realizing our oneness. It would just be oneness all the time.
Exactly. And it wouldn't be a very interesting game, would it?
It would be a very boring game.
Exactly. Exactly. So just like in any good game, there are obstacles to overcome, challenges to face.
Right.
Maya is the challenge.
Great.
And waking up to our true nature, realizing tat famasi, that's the ultimate victory.
I like it. Okay, I'm ready to win this game.
Yes.
How do we win?
Yes.
What tools does Shankaracharya give us to kind of, like, see through this Maya and experience that true self?
So he talks a lot about jnana, which is often translated as like right knowledge,
Right.
but it's not just like intellectual knowledge.
Right.
It's a direct, intuitive knowing and experiential understanding of the self.
So jhana is less about like reading about the self
Yeah.
and more about directly experiencing it.
Yeah.
Like the difference between like reading about a symphony and actually like hearing it played live.
A perfect analogy. And you wouldn't expect to fully grasp the power of a symphony just by, reading the sheet music.
Right.
And in the same way, you can't fully grasp Pat Tivam Asi just by thinking about it. You have to live it, breathe it, experience it for yourself.
So how do we cultivate this jnana? What's the path?
So Shankaracharya outlines a path that involves self-inquiry,
Okay.
meditation,
Oh, yeah.
ethical conduct,
Right.
all aimed at purifying the mind and clearing away those veils of illusion that Maya has, kind of draped over our awareness.
Right. So it's not like a passive process. It really takes effort. Intention, a willingness to actually like show up for the inner work.
Yes, yes. And it's not a solo mission either. Because remember, Shankaracharya also emphasizes ethical conduct.
Right.
How we interact with the world, how we treat each other.
Yeah.
That's also part of the path.
That makes sense. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. That's right.
This is all so powerful.
It is powerful.
And honestly, a little overwhelming, if I'm being honest.
It's a lot to integrate.
Yeah, we've been talking for like an hour.
I know.
And I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of Shankaracharya's 1,000 teachings.
There's always more to explore.
There is. But for the sake of our listeners, and honestly my own sanity at this point, if you had to pick just one thing, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from this deep dive?
That's easy. It's Tat Tivam Asi. Thou art that. Remember that phrase. Let it sink into your bones.
Okay.
It's not just an abstract philosophical concept.
Okay.
It's an invitation to a revolution of the heart.
An invitation to kind of see ourselves and the world around us with new eyes.
Yes.
To recognize that divine spark that really does unite us all.
Yes.
To live from a place of love,
Yes.
compassion,
Yes.
and this deep, abiding peace. Wow. That's a deep dive that I won't soon forget. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into 1,000 teachings.
Thank you for having me.
And a huge thank you to our listener for bringing this text to our attention.
It's been a pleasure exploring it with you. And remember, listener, the journey of self-discovery, it's ongoing.
It is.
So keep asking questions, keep exploring, keep diving deeper. The truth, it's waiting to be revealed within you right now.
Beautiful. Until next time.